What's the hardest bar crawl in Great Britain? The Otley Run of Leeds? The Monopoly Crawl of London? That one in the World's End looked pretty tough. All challenging crawls for sure, but I'd like to make the argument that Great Britain's hardest bar crawl has only one pub. The Old Forge of Inverie is the most remote pub in mainland Great Britain, but the village it's in might as well be one of the Scottish Islands. A wall of mountains splits Inverie from the rest of Scotland. There are no roads to the Old Forge, no trains you can take, only a ferry which supplies the locals and their pub. But you can walk it. If you were determined, you could take a train to Glenfinnan and hike for days through mountains, rivers and bogs, all to reach that fabled pub. As soon as I heard about this challenge, I knew I wanted to try it, and I found some friends just crazy enough to join me. But none of us could have expected just how difficult this walk would be. So come and join us as we attempt what I believe to be the hardest bar crawl in Great Britain. This is another one of those journeys where getting to the start of it is a challenge in itself. After all, it wouldn't be the most remote pub in Great Britain if it were just down the street. I met most of my team in Stafford, and then we were on the roads up to Scotland to grab our final member. The Midland motorway seemed to stretch on and on as we journeyed north, but we slowly started to notice the terrain getting hillier as we passed up through the Lake District, and under the cover of darkness, we finally arrived at my friend's place in eastern Scotland. We awoke to a hearty breakfast and discovered a treasure trove of flapjacks that Louis had brought. The plan was simple: drive to Mallaig and take the train to Glenfinnan. From there we could walk to the Old Forge in Inverie and catch the ferry back to Mallaig where the car would be waiting for us. We stuffed the car with everyone's bags, I wriggled in beneath them, and then we were off. My fully loaded bag came to 13.5 kilos. I do have a photo of what I brought, but I'm not sure how useful it would be for me to go over this. I think I could have done this better in hindsight. This is what I did bring: camping gear, waterproofs, maps, a torch, recording equipment, toiletries, and a lot of shelf-stable food which can be eaten cold. I also stocked up on a bit more food on the journey to Mallaig, just to be sure. So it looks like the rain has begun. Yeah. We knew this was coming. Because the longer you hold off, the less it's going to feel like it's actually raining when it starts. But now it has time to ramp up. It might have started raining, but that could hardly distract from the beauty of Western Scotland. And after hours of journeying, we finally made it to our first stop, the port of Mallaig. From here we ditched the car and trained down to Glenfinnan. This gave me just enough time to get my new recording stuff sorted before the main event. Wind guard. It stops the sound when a wind hits it. That candid shot was captured by Louis, who actually recorded quite a bit of footage on this trip, which I have lovingly stolen for this video. I wanted to film the train drive away and abandon us to the elements, but it just sat there mocking me. And so, at nearly 4 minutes into the video, we could finally begin our adventure. And here we are, in Glenfinnan Station, and we finally made it. I was recording shoddy B-roll on my chest-mounted action camera, Louis was taking significantly better shots behind me, and we quickly reached the first landmark of the journey, the Glenfinnan Monument. So here we are at Glenfinnan Monument, which is the start of the most difficult bar crawl in Great Britain. Quite a nice spot actually. We're going to start from here and we're going to go to the remote village of Inverie where our bar crawl shall begin. Only one pub, the Old Forge, but getting there is going to be a monster of a challenge. Now looking at the weather forecast, it's actually supposed to be quite miserable today, but for some reason it seems to be sunny and I've not really dressed for the sun, but I'm anticipating the rain to come later. So
Let's do this.
The tower was constructed to commemorate the historic event when Prince Charles Edward Stuart raised his banners to claim the British throne, a failed campaign which ultimately led to his exile. Hopefully our lower stakes walk to a pub ends more successfully.
You can get in?
While we're at the start of this walk, let me introduce you to the gang. We've got myself, Louis, Tom and Paul, all of whom are familiar faces on the channel. The walk begins by passing under the Glenfinnan Viaduct, a gateway taking us from civilization to the Scottish wilderness.
Here's a bit of trivia for you. This is the Glenfinnan Viaduct, which I think they did something to do with Harry Potter here.
The Glenfinnan Viaduct is perhaps best known for its appearance in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, where Harry and Ron play Grand Theft Auto with a caged owl and attempt to take out the Hogwarts Express as it steams over the mountain pass.
How are we feeling about the walk so far? How long are we doing this for? Minutes?
Yeah, I don't want to talk.
Get used to my bag weight. I can see where we started.
And yet Paul is still already hungry. And
Louis made a fantastic flat. Louis, tell the camera what you've made of the flat.
there's pecans, there's pistachios, there's
Louis.
mixed dried fruit and crystallised ginger.
Well then, let's actually start this walk properly.
Yeah!
And so we began our voyage, heading north through a valley and befriending the Scottish wildlife.
Hello, little critter.
Hello. It's everyone. Quite friendly.
It's how it says hello.
Oh, he's telling me like it's already.
Trying to.
The walking conditions were beautiful, but we encountered a local who warned us about treacherous river conditions up ahead.
Get this. I honestly don't know what it is. Feeding what? The thing that's coming after us?
Oh, you made that up. Put people in there.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be like a farming thing, right?
We continued following the river to our first landmark of the valley, the Kuy Booy.
There we have Kuy Booy. The walk is proceeding a lot quicker than I thought it would. I guess the problem we have is that we're more used to these super long distance, 1 week, 2 week mega crawls, and this one's only just like a 2-day hike. This isn't actually supposed to be one of the hiking days. We're just trying to get as far as we can on the day where it doesn't seem to be raining, and then we'll make a break from it from there. But it's still quite early. We're making some pretty good progress as well, so I don't really know if we will stop. But anyway, here's the buffet. There it is. Now there are some people in there already, I can tell, so I don't know if we're going to hang out there or not, but it'd be cool to see it. So let's go and have a look at Kuy Booy.
The Bothies of Scotland are small shelters dotted about the wilderness, which are kept open for hikers to use. Kuy was the first of 3 bothies on our route, and it had a fireplace, beds, and even electricity.
It's actually very spacious. I mean, you obviously see the pictures online, but you don't really get a sense of the scale of the place.
It's very long, isn't it?
Yeah. It's still quite early, and there's a lot of daylight left, and it's not raining currently, and it's supposed to be raining later. So maybe we do stay? Maybe we carry on? I don't know. We'll have the tea, we'll have some coffee first, and then we'll make a decision.
We'd worked up quite an appetite with our afternoon of walking, and we set about rustling up some food.
And they're doing something with some sort of fire.
I was concerned about my bag weight, so I opted to avoid carrying the cooking tools and instead went down a purely cold food route. This garnered the respect of everyone I told, and no one thought it was a bad idea.
Hello, and welcome to Stuart's Camping Food Reviews.
Oh
On tonight's menu, we have spam, pepper and avocado wraps. Most of them shelf stable. I'll tell you how it is. I don't think I've had spam in a very long time. Spam is very salty.
You don't really get much of the guacamole. Salmon's a very dominant flavour. I don't regret my decision. I'm checking what the hot food crew are up to. I accidentally left my mic on after this segment and I captured a surprising conversation. Turns out I wasn't the only person who wanted to film their hiking exploits.
Are we going to feature on the cooking channel?
You can. Do you want to feature? Go fetch my gimbal and you can explain what's going on. Alright. Who wants to be leader of this segment? I'll just be a mute cameraman.
I'll start it, but someone fill in when I flounder.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That's harder than what.
Alright, I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, action. Wait, hang on. Go!
I didn't have a starting thing. No, hang on, Stu, stop.
Stop.
You have to say welcome to the second edition of the cooking channel.
Okay, right, okay. Alright, okay, I'll give you the intro. Alright, so I've made the decision on this trip to only eat cold food, but the rest of them have formed a hot food alliance. So, taking it away for the second edition of the Camping Cooking Show, with absolutely no pressure at all, we have Master Chef Tom Rouse.
Hello, YouTube. So come take a look at this bowl. What we have here is mascarpone sauce, not homemade. We have tortellini, also not homemade. So this one's beef and a lot of sage.
I don't know if I'd describe it as mascarpone sauce though.
It says on the jar
Tomato and
mascarpone. We've also had chicken and chorizo tortelloni and spinach and ricotta tortelloni.
How difficult was it to make this concoction?
It's very, very easy.
We just heated it up.
Yeah, you just boil it for like 30
We have
seconds.
these fire machines and the fire just comes out from the top.
And
Then put the pan on
Yeah,
and the food cooks.
with the only disadvantage of a slight mess being, especially with all the pots and pans, but that's just me as a cold food fanatic speaking.
Put the camera in that direction.
No.
And you see the stream to wash everything in.
So you have to take a picture of your awful spam.
People have seen my spam. The audience is on my side here, and I control the edit. This is a beautiful avocado spam, garlic mayo. I forgot about that last time, and a yellow pepper wrap.
cold evening.
So warm inside. I don't know.
There's
Coffee. I'm drinking a can of spam juice with my
Deepest warm.
It's a cool evening.
I think the thing we can all agree on is that the gimbal that I'm using to film this with is pretty cool.
Yeah, the gimbal is really cool.
That's probably unusable footage, wasn't it?
I'll use it. It'll have a lot of cuts.
It might be unusual footage, but I'll use it.
As the evening slowly rolled in, we left Corryhully behind and went in search of a camping spot further along the route. Unfortunately, the forecasted rain was finally starting to arrive, so we switched to our wet weather gear and put on our best wet weather smiles. You sort of lose your peripheral vision when you put the hoods on.
Yeah.
You can't really appreciate the landscape as much.
This is like riding, so it's like really tight on my head. We've got a great field of view.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm not very well covered.
As we started heading uphill to escape the valley, we spotted another surprising animal.
I still see you there behind the boat.
It's very subtle. Oh, it's coming for us.
I do, it's very cool.
We're deers, we're just brightly coloured.
Maybe we're mistaken.
Maybe your city folk just don't recognise a Scottish wolf. Maybe that's what's going on. We were making good progress out of the valley when we spotted a nice ridge to set up camp.
That's a good spot.
Down there.
Just the other side is the back.
That ridge.
Yeah, you can get down there.
Maybe the raised one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else down here.
Let's do it. We scrambled down the hill and made a daring dash over the gentle stream. Once there, we set up the tents as quickly as we could to shelter from the elements. So, we put up the tents and it started raining. Well, it started raining and then we put on the tents, so everything is a bit wet. But the one advantage of the rain means there's no midges around. We were warned of a very high midge quotient on the midge radar, and so far that's not come to pass. The rain has, but on the grand scheme of things, I think I'd prefer the rain over the midges, but I may be singing a different tune tomorrow. Either way, we've made an exceptional amount of progress. We were just supposed to be getting to Glenfinnan today, and we've already done a fair chunk of the walk.
So we'll tune in tomorrow and hopefully we'll get even more covered. I know the weather's going to be bad. There's nothing we can do about that now. Fingers crossed. Wish me luck.
Despite the day of travelling, we'd already completed around 5 miles of the walk. With this head start locked in, we settled down for a peaceful rest in our hillside campsite. It did not last for long.
Things got a little worse since last time I checked in. It's now 2 AM and I think I was camped a bit too close to the river before because the ground there had become basically a bog and the water was seeping into the tent, getting my sleeping bag wet and sort of ruining things. So I've made the decision to move the tent to higher ground, which is what I've just done. The problem is the tent is still wet on the inside, so I'm going to try sleeping in my waterproofs as an extra layer of protection. So I'm hoping I can spend the next 5 hours getting some kind of sleep. I wasn't expecting this. It tends to let me down a bit today. Something like this, previously would have just killed my morale, but now, just get on with it. That's what I say. Well, good night.
The gentle stream we passed to our camping site had become ferocious from the rain. Since I had the closest tent, I pulled it away from the sodden ground, but my shenanigans had woken up the others, and the situation was becoming dire.
There's quite a bit of peril here. As a group, we have decided that we cannot continue camping here. It's become too boggy. So, the river has become a bit perilous. It's going to be very difficult to cross that.
Since we crossed the river to get to this outcrop, we were now cut off from our path, but we knew we couldn't stay here.
The way I see it, we've got two options. We can either bail, head back down to the body that we just did, or continue an unspecified amount of time to get to the other body, but any plan would involve crossing this river.
Dom and I walked up the mountain to try and find a more suitable crossing point, but there was nothing obvious. We returned to the others to see what they wanted to do.
Right.
We have to cross it at some point.
Yeah, maybe when it peaks.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's not going to be a river that goes up and then down again.
There'll be still water on the top, right?
Yeah.
And we'll just walk over.
So in terms of distances then, Stu,
Yeah.
what,
How long's the next body?
yeah.
If you were
Well,
going that way.
We're about halfway to the next body if you start the distance from Glenfinnan.
Okay, right, so options. Option one is we go back to the Bothie. We need to cross the river at some point, which we think is better off doing further up, so we're moving away.
You don't think we could cross the river back?
We might be able to, it's going to get thicker.
It would get
though,
bigger.
isn't it?
The only bridge was the one that was behind the Bothie. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so I don't
Yeah.
think that's...
This path isn't really that
If we wanted to go back, I think we would need to cross the river. Option two is we cross the river and just carry on walking. We could always set up a tent somewhere else.
I don't know if
But I think
can set up
feel
a
like
tent
it would be
without
better.
drying
It would be, yeah, it would be better just to go onto a Bothie to be able to dry it out and then have a bit of a lie down in the day for an hour or two.
Yeah.
By the time we get near a Kuy, it would be bright again. That is
Yes.
another thing. It'll be easier to find than it would is now.
Is it wise to go back?
I'm worried if we go back,
So
we won't
this-
actually make it.
Way.
It just depends on how fucking cold it is.
I don't think I can continue to walk unless I get to a body and dry
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, once we get to body, we'll dry off like 6 hours.
Yeah, we could dry out for as long as we need to. But
I just really need to remove the body, my tent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This
yeah.
one, my
we need to
coat's
get
so
inside.
wet because my coat was cut
Yeah.
by some puddle.
Otherwise, there's no opportunity to
You're not
dry
going to catch
anything, is there?
hypothermia between now and the body though.
I don't feel like it because I have my Under Armour. I think I'll be alright as long as I'm walking.
Either way,
Scenario for me would just wait here until the river descends. Then I go.
Yeah.
Like we wait here until the river dries out. That's the reason
even while
time.
it's still raining, yeah, I think either way, it sounds like the best option is to go up the river
Yeah, it's
and
just-
cross.
And so it was decided. We would continue walking in the darkness to reach a Kuy Booy, roughly 7 miles from our current position. That would be a grueling task on the mountain slopes, so our first goal was to cross the river back to our footpath.
It's pretty good content. I think people like watching disasters more than a success, really. I think there's one thing we can definitely say for sure.
Yeah.
This is absolutely Britain's hardest bar crawl.
I think you might be right. When I'm snagging around on a bar crawl at 3:50 AM,
Yeah.
I don't actually usually do that. I do it when I'm jamming.
What do we do now?
Any progress we were starting to make was cut off when a second stream blocked our path. There was no clear way forward.
It's too impassable. We might cross most of the water. This river is a tricky one to cross. Yeah, let's try and ford it.
The river was still wide, quick and shin deep, but we had run out of options. Dom led us to a potential crossing point and began wading.
We're wading. That's how you walk through a river.
You feel the force on your leg.
Can, yeah.
Why?
As Louis completed his boot-soaking march, we had finally crossed our obstacle. If only it was the only river which needed crossing.
I'm so happy we unlocked the ability to cross fords. It's become a very important part of our lives now. The lighting is just not good for these 3 AM, no, almost 4 AM ford crossings. There we go, that's a decent shot. There is water everywhere.
Our uphill river crossing continued into the early hours of the morning, but as the sun started to light up the clouds overhead, giving us sufficient lighting to resume selfie taking, we were thrilled to discover that we had finally escaped the valley. We spent the next 2 hours coming down the other side of the mountain and heading towards the forest at the bottom. The ground conditions had not improved, and threatening wisps of clouds clung tightly to the mountain tops. Become quite tired from walking through the night and took a short break when we finally reached the forest.
It's the best time of day. 10 past 7 in the morning. Been walking for the past 4 hours through some dreadfully boggy terrain. It was a very rough wake-up call this morning when we left the tenting area behind. We're in a forest now, which is, oh god, it's still a bit boggy here. I'm sinking into the ground. Maybe I shouldn't be walking around so much. I'll walk back to them. But yeah, it's the rain has made this very complicated. My sleeping bag is wet. I've only slept about 3 hours. But when we get through this forest, there is another Bothie, and this time we're going to be staying there for a little while, I think. I'm certainly going to be pushing for a nap. I don't know about anyone else. And tune in then. In on how the rest of the team is doing. How are you doing?
I am all right. We have coffee brewing.
Yeah.
It's a vast improvement in the situation. Rain holding off. And despite the fact that we've got
2:30 in the morning and be walking for 4 hours. Fine-ish, very wet.
I forgot to bring waterproof coat.
Very good trousers.
We bought 2 pairs of waterproof trousers.
That's a good idea.
Nice.
Very, very cold.
Very near hypothermia.
Yeah, that's the main concern that I have at the moment.
Who's talking?
We've got the hot coffee.
No
We've got the hot coffee. I suppose the only the thing keeping us going is that we've got a Bothie that we can allow maybe an hour, hour and a half walk.
Yeah.
I just don't think I can do it without one.
And,
I don't have a raincoat. I just don't think we'd have to walk.
yeah, it would be awful. So we've got another hour and a bit or so of walking. Dry off for several hours, and then see where we are.
At least
that point,
several.
sleep. Yeah,
Maybe
sleep we've had
5.
afternoon nap.
Is there any chance we can spend the night there and wait for
Is it going to be sunny tomorrow?
When we get there, we can check out the weather, check out.
I've got to do 12 hours in the sun and 3 hours shit, fucking rain, camping shit.
We could play Shed.
Wait
Shed the game like
Yeah.
for like 6 hours and have a great time.
So morale is definitely mixed, I would say.
After the forest break was complete, we slowly plodded along through the forest path to a Kuy, when we were suddenly introduced to a new kind of danger.
How do you do that? I'm not a deer! We're here! Do not shoot us! Might work.
Sadly, there were no hunters around to put us out of our misery, but our mood improved regardless when we finally reached a Kuy Bothie. The hut itself felt a lot more homely than the last one, despite the lack of electricity. We soon filled up the drying lines with our sodden possessions, and we even managed to get a fire going, after a failed explosive attempt where we used deodorant as fuel. Our room was converted into a makeshift bedroom, and everyone finally caught up on some much needed sleep. Everyone, that is, except me. All my clothes and sleeping gear were soaked by the bog, and the floor was too cold and hard to sleep on. Instead, I tended the fire and hoped my things would dry. This solitary role gave me ample time to reflect on my many mistakes. We should have stayed the night in the first Bothie. There's no need to risk a washout when there were perfectly usable beds we just walked away from. The waterproof pouch protecting my maps had failed and the maps had become unusable. We switched to a GPS tracker on Louis' phone, which we probably should have been using from the start. My phone, however, was in a dire shape. The microphone was water damaged, which severely affected my audio quality, but I wasn't even aware of this because the battery was dying and the phone wouldn't charge. I stashed away the rest of my recording gear to the centre of my bag to prevent further equipment loss. I should have packed everything into individual waterproof pouches inside my bag to keep things safe if the bag itself had a breach. Eventually, Louis came to distract me from my torment with a game of Shed, a card game known only to us and anyone else who has purchased the Shed Grimoire, available on Amazon. The others woke shortly after, and we hit the road once again.
Hello everyone, so, has been an update. We made it to the Bothie. We stayed here for a few hours, I think maybe 4 or 5 hours. Unfortunately, all my camping equipment is wet, so I couldn't actually sleep. So I'm running on a bit of fumes at the moment. The others managed to get some sleep, so I'm kind of relying on them to be alert and active while I just plod along behind them. Today we want to stop at the Sowerleys Bothie, which is about 4 hours walk from here. And final point as well, my phone is now broken, so from now on vlogging content is going to be on the GoPro camera. I know, it's thrilling. It's raining, and we're going to go to Sowerleys, so catch you in a bit, y'all.
I dragged myself along as Louis led us to another forest through the valley. The area was still very wet, but at least we had a clear footpath to guide us away from our nice warm room in a Kuy. It even led to an excitingly hazardous bridge.
I mean, that's basically a bridge, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't want to ford that. All these planks move.
As we passed through the forest, the walking conditions became noticeably worse. You'll also start to hear my voice getting crankier from the sleep deprivation.
Never escape the fords. Woohoo! More bog.
Lucky bog. Oh god.
Oh!
Isn't too bad.
That's actually not too bad. Oh no, it's getting worse. I'm gonna lose a shoe to this, I can just see it.
That is bad.
Our final bothy now sat at the bottom of the mountain range we've been walking through. With our rest spot almost within our sight, we began the descent.
Oh my god. It's prettier than I thought it was.
The area was gorgeous, even in the oppressive weather. The group seemed to be holding up okay, but my morale was starting to hit rock bottom. And yet the highlands didn't relent, throwing us once again into a massive river crossing.
Oh, thank you.
Made
Yes.
it.
The path gradually started improving as we descended the mountain, and eventually we came across an area where we could refill our bottles. The gang had brought chlorine tablets in their bags so they could pop them into bottles to sterilise the wild mountain water. I took this as a golden opportunity to sneak off and vent my frustrations to the camera.
I'm struggling with this. I'm not having the best of times. I'm cold. My knees are killing me. My biggest concern now is even when I get to this bothy, my sleeping equipment is still going to be wet. I'm still not going to be able to sleep. But things might improve. People are here.
We were basically almost there, but we had slowed to a snail's pace. I was so tired. My mind was starting to play tricks on me. I could feel myself drifting off. Then just like that, we were there. I marched into a bothy full of strangers, collapsed onto a bench, crawled into a wet sleeping bag, and almost immediately fell asleep. I woke up quite refreshed after my first sleep of the walk. I'd only had 2 hours sleep in the 40 hours leading up to Sowerley's bothy. The rest of the team kindly offered to sleep outside, since I had the unlucky spot on the first night and there was only room for one in the crowded bothy. With this heroic gesture on their part, the balance of suffering had been restored. We'd all experienced an equal amount of hardship, and no one could envy anyone else. The gang then went inside to start cooking breakfast, but I had other plans.
Hello and welcome to another exciting installment of Eating Camp Food with Stu. I can't remember what I call the first segment. We're on the Saturday now. I'm doing stewed steak and new potatoes, both from tins. Is it edible cold? That's the main question. It's certainly a different meal when it's cold, but I'd say it's still edible. There'll be a lot of protein, and you can pretend the potatoes are healthy as well, so yeah, pretty decent. 3 or 4 out of 5. My friend Chris showed me this recipe. I'm used to having it warm, but it works quite well cold as well. I sort of lost track of the vlogging thing yesterday. I got very wet and very tired, but I think I got some footage in. Just slept in a bothy today, and things are feeling a lot more upbeat. I'm told there's only about a 8 or so hour walk until we get to Inverie. Looking around the area, you can really see that you can tell why it's not connected to the mainland. You would really struggle to get roads and cars through all these valleys. I'm looking forward to getting this finished today. Finally get to see this old forge I've been hearing about.
Once breakfast was complete, we struck the tents and began the walk, but not before I gave a motivational speech to boost group morale.
And so we were off. The level of enthusiasm in my voice is completely artificial. Oh, it's a bit grim, it's a bit rainy. But we're this far now. Even if we wanted to bail, the easiest way to do that is to get to Inverie, so let's do this.
Today's walk began with a tricky stroll around a slippery mountain.
Son, we're over here, come on! Don't give us back to the rain!
Our glimpse of sunlight didn't last long and we were soon marching through an ugly bog. Our boots rarely found dry ground as we skirted along the River Canach. But lucky us, this time around we had a bridge over the river. Following this, we climbed yet another mountain. It was a tough climb and we were shattered by the end of it.
Ready whenever you guys are. What's Dom got?
My lunch, Lou's lunch.
Okay. You taunting him, Louis?
Yeah, you got 10 seconds when it goes down.
I thought they would like this all over there.
Shortly after we left the Bothie, I discovered, to my horror, the GoPro camera had run out of battery. But I've been charging it for the past 2 hours while we've climbed a mountain, the actual mountain which cuts off Inverie from the rest of the world, and now we're scaling down the other side. Weather-wise, we've had a mix of horrible rain, horrible wind, but also the occasional sunspot, which is pretty good.
Very occasional.
Yeah, like 10 seconds.
Yeah, a minute.
I'm trying to bring the mood up here, guys. People will be watching this expecting like a glowing review of the Scottish Highlands, and here we are just slagging off its horrible weather. Oh God, and terrain. Yeah, I'm walking through a literal bog. We were wondering whether it was a bog or a marsh earlier. Jury's still out on that. And yeah, I'm walking with a limp because my legs have failed me. So, pretty good. A few more hours yet though, and we will have completed the hardest bar crawl in this great island. Coming down the mountain, we were faced with the usual wet paths and cloudy weather, but an exciting surprise was lurking round the corner.
What a beautiful meadow. It's all been worth it, Dom. It's been worth the limp.
For this one moment.
Just this one moment, but it's on camera, Dom, so this is, for us, it's like 0.001% of the walk, but for the video, it might be like 2%.
Yeah, that's true. It feels like
Especially the longer I leave this clip running. Alright, that's enough of that.
The weather had turned so beautiful, we decided to stop for a quick lunch break. In hindsight, this was a mistake.
My roll mat has gone. Everything's going everywhere. Oh, this is the worst picnic ever.
Changes so rapidly.
Everything's going wrong. I'm missing my avocado like an apple. We get the spam, it's not worth it.
I'm eating a goldfish if I can get
I'm gonna pack it quick. The wraps are useless now, they've become muddy. Is Louis actually still making tea? No, he's not. No, my bag. My naked bag.
What a lunch.
What a lunch.
didn't eat anything.
It comes from like over there to here in like
Deary me. Deary me.
After our harrowing attempt at lunch, we began our final march towards our ultimate destination.
I think I can get a shot of that cross from afar.
Actually, I'll actually check if it's filming it. It's filming the area, but I don't know if it's going to come out. There's a very thin line. Right, we have just spotted a monument on a hill, which I know from my research is a hill which possibly overlooks Inverie. If it doesn't overlook it, then it's very close to Inverie. It's some sort of cross on a stick. No, the cross is the stick. It's some sort of cross on a mound, which might look very impressive in person. But right now it signals the end of the walk. We're so close now. The weather isn't raining currently. Hey. We can do this. Hey. The Old Forge awaits. Woo. The Brocket Memorial was placed by Lord Brocket of Knoydart in 1938 to honour his family. Lord Brocket is best known for being a Nazi sympathiser who would host supporters of Nazi Germany in his estate. Brocket relocated the original settlers from this area, leading to the ruins we saw on this trail, and became an absentee landlord who would visit for hunting. After the war, 7 Highland soldiers tried to reclaim this empty estate in a land raid protest, but Lord Brocket had them evicted. Perhaps not a shining beacon of morality, but the monument provides a good landmark nonetheless.
What's up? Final push! You're not gonna stop me now, wind!
Definitely on the last hour now.
The Highlands blasted us with a vicious coastal wind, but we could be delayed no longer. We had finally arrived at the outskirts of Inverie.
We are there, right on the edge of the map. Old Forge pub, a tea room with pottery.
Do we have tea? Was it just pottery?
We finally reached the outskirts, the fabled village of Inverie. Right now we're going to the campsite, and once we've done that, we will head to the Old Forge to finish the hardest bar crawl in Great Britain. And what a nightmare of a bar crawl this has turned out to be. Definitely earns the title that I'm going to be putting on this thumbnail.
We passed the forest and also went by a warning sign, which only confirmed our insanity, and went to pitch up in an incredibly windy coastal campsite. We then set off for the pub, passing some interesting attractions.
And here we have Stuart Morris, the great explorer, exploring the rope swing.
Where's it going?
And then we had finally done it. We had reached the Old Forge. All our trials, the weather, the pain, paled into insignificance in its grand presence, right up until we saw the notice in the window. It was closed for refurbishment.
So, here we are. Come all this way to the Old Forge and it's shut. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I knew that the pub wouldn't be open when we came here. Unfortunately, we had to book this trip quite far in advance, and we didn't know exactly when they'd be reopening. I was hoping to drop in when it was open, but I guess I've just about missed out on this one. Supposedly, it's opening in a few weeks though, so pretty soon that is going to be the most remote pub in Great Britain. So, what does this mean then? Well, in a sense, we haven't really managed to do what we came out here to do. But if anyone's watched York Review, then you'll know there is a slight caveat here.
We are interested in every place within the walls which serves alcohol to the general public, a definition which includes shops like Tesco.
I don't think that's the only pub in Inverie.
We weren't prepared to give up hope, and so turning to my more relaxed definition of a pub, we headed to the village restaurant. Unfortunately, this was closed too, and we didn't have much more look at Inverie's third pub, the brewery. Time and time again we were turned away, but we had one final trick up our sleeves to save the bar crawl.
You see, I would consider a pub to be any building which serves alcohol to the general public, including shops like Tesco, or in this case, the Inverie Village Shop. No, it's a post office. Oh, it is a shop. Is it? Yes, it is. Here we go. Perfect. Just in the nick of time. Right, well.
Special edition Knoydart Brewery.
That's what I want.
Knoydart, how much is it?
$3.50. So I've gone and got myself a bottle of Knoydart Brewery Special Edition. This is actually the brewery in the village. We passed it on our way to the restaurant. And so without further ado, I will end this one pub bar crawl by having some of this. Cheers. Very good.
With my review finished, I returned to the campsite's hut to celebrate our group's achievement.
Cheers. Hey.
And so ended another camping challenge. The full walk was just under 30 miles, but that number doesn't truly do justice to the difficulty of this hike. We scaled mountains, pushed through rivers, marched through bogs, day and night, through rain and wind. It was without question the most difficult walk of my life. We stayed in the campsite overnight and headed over to the ferry the next day. Of course the weather would start to get better now as we strolled on down to the village docks. We were allowed a short glimpse of Inverie in the sun just to show off how beautiful this area could be on a good day, and then we boarded a ferry to take us back to Malig. At the time of recording, the continuous harsh weather sapped morale and energy, and I didn't really appreciate the area I was in. Over the months I've spent editing this video though, I've been surprised with how stunning the Knoydart area actually was. It's a truly inspiring wilderness, with rugged mountains, thick forests and sprawling rivers. The chest-mounted camera was also incredibly useful. It was always ready to start recording even when times were too tough to record properly. It's allowed me to give you a glimpse at the darkest times of the walk, even if that glimpse is mostly from the neck down. Despite the dire situations, I've also been surprised by how much laughter I recorded. I've realised how instrumental the social aspect was in a journey like this. It's not about where you go, but who you go with that makes the difference. I'm not sure if I'll ever return to the Old Forge of Inverie, but if I did, I know exactly who I'd invite first.